Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel and thank you for clicking on today's video. I know it's been a little while since I last uploaded, but Artlist is hosting a sound effects challenge that looked like a lot of fun, so I decided to participate and submit a video I created for a baseball training facility. So I'll play you guys the video now so that you can see the end product, then I'll take you on location so you can see some of the behind the scenes of the filming process, and then we'll go back here and we'll break down my sound design process. We are on location now and we have our shot list here. Whenever I create a shot list, I always start in chronological order the way I see the video playing out in my head. But for the actual shoot day, I rearrange all the shots in order of what makes most sense to film from start to finish in order to maximize efficiency and productivity on set. So we're going to start with handheld shots by myself on the Blackmagic, and then after that we're going to move over to the gimbal, and we have a team who's behind the camera right now who is going to help us with the gimbal shots, which is also going to be very efficient because it means we don't have to take this guy out of its cage and onto the Ronin. So yeah, let's get started. For the sequence where Trevor puts down his equipment bag and then it transitions into him opening up the bag, I want to get a POV shot from inside. So in order to do this, we set manual focus ahead of time, and then I propped up the camera on some clothes to get the right angle. All right, so the idea I had for the very last shot was for the ball to hit the glass, break the glass to reveal the logo. Now, obviously we don't actually want to break the glass on this lens. So the original idea was to set the camera up on a tripod behind this net to act as a protective layer when the ball gets hit and flies into the net. The issue was the squares on this net were too small, so even after adjusting the focal length on the lens, you can still see the squares in frame. So instead we improvised a bit, and what I did was I held the ball in front of the lens like this and I just threw it backwards. And in post-production what I'm going to do is mask out my hand so that you don't see it and it looks like it's just coming from a dark black mysterious place and hitting the lens, and then I'm going to create a glass shattering effect on an alpha channel to reveal the logo. Alright, so like I said before, Artlist has both music and sound effects, and the very first thing I do is I source my music. And I actually prefer to do this in the pre-production phase because I find by listening to different types of music, I'm able to get inspired and really narrow down the overall style and vision that I want for the video. It's also very helpful because by listening to a music track from start to finish, you're able to visualize how your video is going to play out in your head, which helps inspire shot ideas for your storyboard. So I'm on Artlist right now, and as you can see from the side here, they have different categories such as mood, video theme, genre, and instrument with different filters that are very useful for finding something very specific to what you are wanting to create. So for the video I'm creating, it's a baseball video, and they have a category here called sport and fitness. That filter already is very accurate to what I'm wanting to create, but if I want to narrow it down even more, then I could go into mood and select some more filters such as powerful, or epic or dramatic, and they also have the genre filters if you wanted to narrow that down. Let's say if you wanted electronic or pop, and same thing with instruments. If you want to get even more specific, you can choose the exact instrument as well. So when it comes to my sound design process, I break it down into 3 different categories. The first one is essential sounds, the second is atmosphere sounds, and the third are transition sounds. I've color-coded these categories in my timeline so that's easier for you guys to see the breakdown. The blue are all the essential sounds, the yellow are the atmosphere sounds, and the purple are the transition sounds. So the very first category of essential sounds is basically just what it sounds like. It's the most obvious sound effects you can think of that would match your video. So some examples of this in my timeline would be the very first clip here where the garage door opens. or the workout sequence when you hear the weights drop and the wheels of the bike spinning, and the baseball sequence as well when the ball is getting hit off the tee. Any sound that is an obvious one and one that is basically essential to your timeline. So after I finish editing in the essential sounds, the next category I work on are the atmosphere sounds. The atmosphere category is very useful for filling in your environment to make it sound more full and add more depth to your sound design. So if we're going to break down the very first scene again, instead of just adding the garage door opening, I stack together some atmosphere sounds to add to the overall environment. So for you guys to see the difference, here's the first clip with just the music. Here's the clip now with the music and the essential sound effect of the garage door opening. And now here's the same clip with the music, the essential sound of the garage door opening, as well as the 6 atmosphere sounds that I stacked together. Another way to design atmosphere is by adding effects to your audio clips. So in this sequence here, when the player is having a flashback to game day, you'll notice that the music starts playing normally and then it dips down to a kind of muffled sounding tone as he's having the flashback of the different clips. And how you can do this is by adding a low pass filter, dragging it onto your clip, and adjusting the cutoff points. I also like to add keyframes to make it sound a little bit more gradual as it goes into the low pass and then back out of the low pass. This effect is also used really well in footage where you have somebody going underwater and you want the sound to be a little bit muffled to create that underwater atmosphere. Another effect that I use all the time is called constant power. You can easily drag and drop this to the beginning or the end of your audio clip, as well as in between 2 audio clips to create a nice gradual seamless transition or fade. So now for the third category of transition sound effects. These are sounds such as risers or impacts or hits that you can add into your footage to really sell a transition and enhance the overall flow of your footage. So for example, you'll see in the sequence here, the weight transitions into the wheel of the bike. I did this transition by adjusting keyframes for the scale and position of those 2 clips, as well as adding some speed ramping. And it flows pretty nicely. I'll play it without the transition first, and you can see the transition still plays pretty nicely. But then when we add in this sound here, it just helps enhance and emphasize the overall transition and just kind of reinforce the movement of it. Another example is the scene here where I transitioned from the jump rope scene to the rope scene. It's a little bit more subtle. The transition happens when the jump rope goes down and then it goes back up and then the rope comes down next. And to reinforce this transition, I just added in a little bit of a louder hit sound. So I'll play it with no hit sound. And now we'll play it again with the hit sound added in. So for the workout sequence, the sounds I used were for transitions that you could see happening. But for this sequence here where Trevor grabs his AirPods and he looks up and he has that moment where he flashes back to his game day, I use the transition sound effects here, not so much to transition from clip to clip, but more so to transition from what was going on in Trevor's head. So for example, this first clip here is a riser and it's building up the tension all the way until he puts his AirPod in the ear. The AirPod sound effect plays and it drops off. The second one that plays is a much shorter riser, and it just happens when Trevor looks up directly into camera, and it kind of conveys the transition that something is about to happen. Then you see the baseball slowly appear into Trevor's eye. It zooms in. I added mostly atmosphere sounds to that to just kind of convey the intensity of the flashbacks. But then when the flashbacks zoom back out, I added this sound that snaps him back into reality. So these last 4 sounds at the very end of my sequence is the sound of a ticking clock. And the sound of a ticking clock can obviously be used for other things. It's not just a transition sound, but I labeled it as such because I used it to transition back and forth between the practice footage and the game day footage. Thanks for watching today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please leave it a like and comment and subscribe to see more in the future. See you guys in the next one.